All right, week
or week
7.
7.
All right, so welcome back to week 7 of Breakpoints. It's Sam Young here with my co-host Taylor Crawford. Is that AgroBlaze 96? That's
The
Zach. Everyone knows
AgroBlaze
Zach.
96 and AgroBlaze 69 sitting in the middle of the screen or the top left. I can't remember where Taylor's at on the podcast
I'm
preview.
gonna switch it around now because you said that.
And
Oh,
you guys normally see us with a fourth mystery guest. Something extra special. Where could they be? You know where they are? They're in your Google Docs this week. We're talking about spreadsheets and testing. That's what we're doing.
oh, brother.
We thought this week it'd be a little bit better for us to each take our own perspectives on how we approach testing for tournaments, especially in light of how recent, ProQuest news, however you feel about that, has come out. Um, there are different ways you can approach testing that don't revolve around in-paper play as much, and we want to talk to you about that today. So, we all do things a little bit differently. I think we can all agree that there is no one size fits all for testing. I think that each of us take a pretty different approach. And we won't be throwing all of this stuff up on screen today. So audio listeners rejoice, you don't have to actually watch on YouTube or anything. But we'll be putting some stuff in the description for you to follow along with what I'm talking about if you want to. I'm going to go over some testing documents that I used personally before I joined TheCardGuyz, so you can kind of get this overview of what it looks like to test very thoroughly for an event in what I would like to call a short, quote unquote, amount of time, and what it looks like more now that I am a part of a larger testing group. And then we're going to go over Zach's and Taylor's perspectives on how they get prepped for tournaments as well. I just can speak a lot more thoroughly about how I do things because, I'm the one doing it all. But before we really get started, Taylor, how was your week?
My week was absolutely fantastic. I got to practice for Kansas City. Um, After last weekend, I had a pretty good weekend in CC. So I'm feeling pretty good going into the next weekend for Kansas City. I finally decided on a deck. I was thinking about Gravy. I'm going to probably end up on Slippy. I'm seeing kind of like the New Zealand meta, and it looks like it's probably a good pick meta wise. It just looks really good, man. It's just like it kind of reminds me of Aurora and Lexi combined together, where it has some of Aurora's weaknesses and some of Lexi's strengths. I'm gonna give credit. Sam told me that earlier, and I'm gonna totally steal that in the first 5 minutes of this podcast. And I was like, you know what? That's a good thing to say. I'm taking it. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I think with
Yeah, so my week's been interesting. There's been it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, been up and down. We're kind of ending the week on a little bit of a down note. I had an 0-5 stream today as we're recording this. I can't really remember the last time I didn't win a single game on stream. It's been a hot minute since then. I'm trying to get ready to play Ira, but I don't know. We're gonna run Ira back tomorrow and see what happens. I'm currently stuck between Victor and Ira for the event. So I don't know. It's been kind of all over the place, but just getting ready for Kansas City and being sad that Rainbow Foil Test of Iron Grip is currently $50. So God only knows how much the EA version is going to be, which I have to have for Victor. So here we are. What about you, Sam?
my week has been also flooded with testing for Kansas City. This is kind of the last stretch I have. Those of you who've been keeping up with my personal life, I'm finally closing on my house on Wednesday, so
Hey, let's
there's
go.
not a lot of time left. Super happy about it, very excited. Probably wouldn't have been going to Kansas City at all if I hadn't already booked my plane before we decided to buy a house.
Oh, that's
Instead, I
funny.
would be moving into the new place, but it is what it is.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats, man. I
um,
didn't know you guys were buying a house, dude. That's super exciting.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited about it, and everyone else who watches our content is gonna get a nice little preview of the upgrade later. I'm gonna get a nice sweet new setup, gonna get a whole new recording room, maybe get some live game play testing area. It's gonna be
Hey,
sick.
let's
But
go.
besides the point, other than that, I've done a lot of testing. I opened myself up some Mastery Pack Guardian, got some bling for the YouTubers. That sweet Marvel Seismic Surge along with some other nice ones. But the Marvels in this new set look sick. I guess the set is a release set, whatever you want to call it. Mastery Pack. The Marvels look sick.
Master
So
Tag
that's how I
Gravy.
feel about
Yeah, there's some
cards.
pretty cool cards in this set. I agree.
But yeah, so going past that into the testing for this week, I have a bit of a dilemma every time we approach an event. Am I on the right deck? Oftentimes, I talk myself into playing a worse deck because I want to pivot because I think people are targeting me, and I think that people know more about my matchups than I do. Happens all the time. It's a brutal cycle, and I end up doing great on the deck that I actually prepped for like 3 months before this. I've been playing repeatedly. So, I'm going to take my own advice on this one. And I'm going to stick with Gravy going into Kansas City, despite how I feel, it could be targeting, or it could be targeted going into Kansas City. So, if you wanted to prep for an event like this, and there's a bunch of new cards dropping, maybe it's a new set, I want to take us back to the Hunted. Hunted was coming out, Calling Memphis was on the horizon. I was pretty pumped. My first calling, I wanted to do really well. I got no one to test with, but I got my buddies, I'm gonna work on all this stuff, and I'm gonna shoot this off to like Taylor, shoot off to Aaron, see what they think, So I set like a schedule for myself. And for you guys to see, if you want to see like an actual visual representation for this, we're going to put this in the description below. This is an actual testing primer that I used for this section of testing. And I set out a list of goals for myself, and I knew that I think it was 2 weeks before was the actual release of all of the cards on the world premiere. And I wanted to familiarize myself with all the cards immediately. I wanted to find anything that I thought was like really powerful in that set. Anything that was, just not something we saw in the spoilers that looked really sick. Because there were a lot of cards that I felt like we saw at the world premiere that just completely changed what you could do in the landscape of Flesh and Blood. So, my first set was I wanted to find a baseline for how Syndra looks, how Fang looks, and how both of the Arachnids looked. I want to see how those decks compare into the meta decks at the time. So at that point, it's all MST and Aurora pretty much. And I wanted to see if any of the existing meta decks got any kind of upgrades. And so I outlined all this, and I'm like, all right. Immediately, there's some standouts. If you were around for testing at the time, Zephyr Needle Ira was insane. And I spent about 40 hours testing Zephyr Needle Ira because I found immediately that retrieving Zephyr Needles was the most insane thing you could possibly do in Classic Constructed.
I remember talking to you
matter.
after they banned Needle because you had spent so much time and you kept telling me, Zach, just play the deck. Just play the deck. And like you had spent so much time practicing leading up to that event, and then they banned it, and you sent me this message, and you were like, I have no idea what to do now, bro. Like I remember talking to you about that.
Okay, so some internal CardGuyz lore here. Leading into Memphis, Aaron had already figured out like the perfect 80. Like he had he pretty much told me, he's like, I'm gonna win the calling. And then there was some stuff. Was it We Make Best made the YouTube video going, hey, Needle Ira's gonna break the game. And then LSS goes, we're gonna ban it preemptively before Memphis. And I'll never forget the night that it happened. I remember getting a DM from Aaron going, I hate this. And I'll never forget that moment. I was like, because I wasn't gonna play it. Because fun fact here, we found the one deck that counters Needle Ira. We found the one deck. And me and Nathan were gonna play, and I quote, I swear to God, we were gonna play a Riptide that weekend. It was the one deck that Needle Ira could not beat. We played 25 games, and it was the one deck that Ira could not beat because it had every answer to the whole Needle dilemma. And I remember they're like, okay, we're gonna ban it. And I remember messaging Nathan. I was like, dear Nathan, what are we doing in 2 weeks from now? I am lost. He goes, I don't know. Have a good time figuring it out. And I was like, oh my God.
It was even worse than that though, because like they banned Needle. It was less than it was definitely less than 2 weeks. I think I had 1 weekend.
Yeah, maybe 1 weekend.
And I was working that weekend, and so I put all of my testing time in like the weekend before. I was irate that they put out this ban list. Oh,
Oh, I remember.
oh.
Because, like, I remember playing against Needle Ira, and I think Zen Needles is actually statistically better. And I remember putting a deck together, and I'm playing on Talishar, because I do the majority of my testing against Talishar randoms. And I remember playing against what we make bad Aurora, and I play this game, and I draw the literal nuts as Zen Needles, and I kill Aurora on like turn 2 or 3. And the next day I wake up and I see a video on YouTube going, "Is Zen Needles broken?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" And then like you can go onto her channel right now and go watch it. It's literally going. I had played against a Talishar player, and it was on Zen Needles, and they were broken. I was like, "Oh my god!" And then at the end of the video, he goes, "But yeah, but Zen Needles were actually banned earlier this morning." And I was like, "Oh my god, dude!" I was like, it's a roller coaster of a video if no one's watched it.
I feel like I want to go back and watch this just to see the whole thing like unfold.
Dude, it is a roller coaster because at the time I thought I had broke the meta in 10 different ways because like if you play like a blue pickup sticks and then you can just transcend. It's like, oh my god, this is insane.
My gosh. That actually sounds crazy.
And you play that transcendent response, get your Kasaya resource, paste it through retrieve. It was silly.
Yeah.
It's very silly.
And now, is it better than Ira? No. In hindsight, no. But is it cooler than Ira? Most definitely. Ira is like the most boring deck to watch. So it's like, you do anything other than Ira, you're like, oh, this is so cool. But Ira just has that like 0.5 to 0.7 better value per turn than any other deck. And you're like, oh, I guess I got to play this.
Oh, it puts you in such a like an insane spot too, because if you overblock to break the needles, they got the extra point because you overblocked. And then it didn't matter because then they could they wanted to break it anyway. They were just gonna flick, and so they'd retrieve it and swing the needle a second time that turn. And so you just had like a blue that translated to 6 damage on offense. It was just like quick dodge flexors offensively every turn.
It didn't matter what you did. If you blocked, you were losing. If you didn't block, you were losing faster. Like it did not matter what you did. It was crazy.
It was wild. All right. Anyway, bringing it back. So we do all this testing. I'm doing all this. I recognize Ira's insane, but I still want to do my due diligence. And I set like a baseline for like, oh, what happens if you put Hunter's Clave in new? What happens if, how do these decks look into Jarl? Because Jarl is still like fresh and, maybe that like trips up.
We were still worried about Jarl. What a world. What a time to be alive.
Spoiler alert, it didn't. And then, because of this due diligence, I still worked on Enigma, because if you know anything about what I did beforehand is I played a ton of Enigma. As soon as MST came out, that was like the only thing I played pretty much. So because of that, Quick Dodge Flexors came out in that set, and also Put in Context came out in that set. I was like, hold on. A blue D-React and boots that block for 6 on multiple breakpoints when my worst matchup is like Aurora going 4-4-4. This is fantastic. There's so many Tunic Mirror Guy possibilities all over the place, and transcending off of a blue D-React is the best. And so, because I do this due diligence, I test all of these decks. I try to create like a baseline for what I think they're all going to look like and how the new cards might cycle in. I end up like coming into what I thought was a very good Enigma list. And I was able to fall back on something like that. So I just kind of want to highlight that, while you're doing all of this work, maybe not all of the decks pan out. But if something like this happens, where there's like some kind of ban and restricted announcement that comes out of nowhere, which this isn't the first time, it's not even the second, I think, or they've done it like right before a big event, you can always fall back on previous testing. And the big boogeyman being knocked down a peg means the things that were kind of good might just be kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And that almost really came to fruition for me in Memphis, because if I was able to stay alive on day 2 mentally, I would have done really well in that calling. It was undefeated in the first day. And I think that the prep that I did before that was very instrumental. And I kind of want to take the piece of my testing that's, I think, very different from maybe what Taylor and Zach do, and then maybe what most people do, is I do a ton of theory and game state type development on the front end. A lot of what I do for creating my deck and my game plan strategies happens at the very beginning. And a lot of like my testing for like the thresholds for what do I need in this deck in order to hit like. So I'll explain this a little bit better using Enigma. Okay, Enigma. The whole game plan is you wanted to get your opponent down to the threshold where they had to block Mirror Guy, and you wanted to block with Traverse and then summon Mirror Guy and make them block.
Yep.
How do you get there? You get there through your Phantasmaclasms and then other various like attacks in the deck, right? Phantasmaclasm was the big one. Everyone hated that. So how do you fit in enough attacks and enough disruption to walk your opponent's life total down to like spring the trap? And so you want to map out exactly how many of these 2-for-6s, how many of the Clasms do I need to throw, and then how do I have a density of these attacks that I'm drawing one every hand, sometimes two, so I can arsenal one, and then also have like really high value on the defensive side, so you can load it full of D-reacts. Enigma loved that because you keep the board, and if you kept the board, you always knew that like you were winning on the value war by like 1,000,000. It was insane. Even the smallest thing, like just keeping a Waxing Spectre on the board for more than a turn, meant you were up like 6 points on your opponent. It was crazy. So doing that kind of like logistical testing at the very beginning where you're mapping out exactly what your ratios need to be and what kind of damage and threat density, and then what percentage of that can you even like lower to now include disruptive attacks. So like one of my favorite things is when we were testing for London, Aaron came up with this fucking brilliant idea for Enigma where we could lower the damage threshold of the deck just a little bit and increase the disruption by putting Sensor in the deck. And the one cost fit the curve so well that I couldn't believe that we didn't think about this sooner. And we like that one cost curve so much, we included a copy of Phantasmal Symbiosis in the deck because we wanted the damage threshold on the one cost to be exactly right. And the yellows in the deck weren't horrible. Like, you did want a lot of blues, it wasn't Mystic Hero, but the resource on the yellow did come up sometimes where you could now do the 2-card play with a CNC instead. Or you could do as your one cost like yellow metamorph play, essentially. So finding that ratio of what is the absolute threshold of your deck to be able to hit this game state where you are like almost guaranteed to win is something I'm looking for when I'm building my decks every time. So recently we've been doing a lot of testing on Volda, and like I was saying before, I was maybe considering pivoting off Gravy this past week, and these new Mastery Pack Guardians came out, and I'm really excited about Volda. Maybe a little bit too excited, I don't know, but
it's the fun
I was
factor.
trying to math out. The deck is so fun, but anyway. Yeah, when trying to math out how exactly to make Volda fit in the metagame and also have a winning game plan into the big boogeyman of the format in what I would say are Slippy Gravy, and then I would extend that further down to Ira, Verdance, Acilio, Prism, kind of to an extent, kind of going down the line of like things that I think could show up and be good, and how do I approach all of these matchups at the same time because they all require something a little bit different. So one of the fun iterations of testing with this deck is I found that against some decks that you are having trouble into, like Gravy, for example, give you a ton of seismic searches, or like Prism, because they draw a ton of cards at certain points in the game. I wanted a threshold of damage in the deck that didn't rely on the single action point. And so, independently, me and Ed were testing the Volda deck. And we had come to fairly similar lists, and we got together, we came to almost the same exact 80, working together a little bit, and then we separated from that point, because we're just, working through the week, doing different things. And independently, we came to trying 5 pummels in Volta, which...
Go on.
Before Enigma came out, I played a lot of Victor. And, MST came out and I couldn't play Victor anymore. I refused to play Victor at competitive events as long as New and Enigma were in the format.
It was tough. It was a tough time to be a Victor stan, I'll tell you. Speaking from experience, thank God for Aurora.
One of the first things I did with Victor is that a lot of people, in order to beat the Victor deck, tracked your resources very precisely at like the top end. Like, oh, they only have exactly 3 pummels. They only have exactly 6 clashes that matter. And they only have a certain amount of disruptive attacks that matter. So when I was first testing in the MST format, you'll hear legend of the blue Surging Strike Zen deck. Me and Merrick were testing if it was actually possible to beat a Victor deck that was like kind of tuned. And so in Victor, I was testing Humble and Yellow Pummel at the same time. And so I took that idea because it was actually made so that I could beat Bond Zen because I was throwing enough. There's the exact density of disruption in my deck at that time that I could disrupt every turn. It was like almost never missed between Humble, the Pummels, your choke slams because we still had Art of War. All those things were really important still. So I took that idea. I moved into Volda, and I was like, I have all these extra resources from these decks that are giving me extra surges. I can have a 2-card play against Gravy sometimes where I play a Spinal Pummel, pretty much. Sorry, a 3-card play, not a 2-card play on that one. You have to actually play the Spinal. But the part that made it really interesting is that a lot of the times you'd get enough surges in your Volta list that the attack becomes free, and having the extra pummels weren't inefficient because I always wanted to pitch to plating to keep that surge roaming. So I was like, maybe we can fit 2 more pummels in here. I get my density of disruption. I get my density of like quote unquote true damage because I'm trying to dominate all these attacks. The pummels are just like almost true damage at this point. And so, Ed and I came to like the same conclusion. We're like, this might be pretty good. And we tried it for a while. It's not good. It's terrible, actually.
Okay.
And it increases like the brick frequency of the deck. It's not something.
Let me get a little preference on this. He sends me a list, and he's like, Taylor, I think it's solved. And I was like, okay.
I don't know if it was that close.
Been there, felt that before.
Okay, sorry. He calls it Rev 6, which is internally in the TheCardGuyz is like
amazing. Amazing.
And Knight's calling him Rev whatever as the deck's progressing, or something like that. And
just revision 1 through whatever.
And I was like, okay, sounds great. And I start a Talishar game up. This is true. He was in chat when this happened. I didn't look at the deck. And I was like, you know what? He's going to make a good deck. I'm really excited to test it into some random Talishar deck. I draw my first hand up. It's like red pummel, yellow pummel, cranial crush. And I was like, dude, this ain't it, dog.
What dreams are made of, dude. That's what dreams are made of.
Instantly, first support, I was like, nope. I proceed to lose the game. And I was like, I don't ever want to see one of your decks ever again with Volta.
Dude, are you kidding me? That's great, bro. You pitch to make a surge, you overpitch for hammer, you come in for 4, and then you arsenal the 3rd pummel. You're far ahead. It's crazy. Like
I was punching the air at like how bad it was, dude. I was like, dude, this is gonna be like,
God, I wish I'd been there for this.
I was like, I want to go down. Like, do that meme is like upgrade, downgrade. I was like, I want to go back to Red 5. I was like, I don't want to see this deck ever again. He's like. He was like, think about the times that yellow pummel's good. And I was like, no. I was like, I can't do it, dog. I visualized like, nope, nothing. Dude,
it's good when you draw all the pummels together, but when you do that, because there's 5 in your deck instead of 3 now.
So like, man, when you go pummel this turn, pummel next turn, take a turn off, pummel the turn after that, you just feel like you're God. It's awesome. It's so good, bro.
But it's also the greatest segue. It's also like one of the best segues into the theory of Fab. And the theory of Fab is like, you can perfect a deck in theory, but then when you pick up a deck, it can just shit the bed. And you know what? I've sent decks to the team chat that literally they're like, this looks dog shit. It plays great. That's great. And then vice versa. I've created blue Surging Strike Zen. And it's like, this is dog shit. And I'm going to play it. And I respect that.
I like to say, whenever I cook it perfectly, I've burned like 50 steaks in the process. Like, there is like so many times I make a great list, and then there's like 50 times I make a terrible list at the same time.
And that's like my favorite part is that people get too concentrated on whenever they make a great list, and it gets like, It's a whole thing, dude. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have so much to talk about this podcast. I'm so excited about the whole
Welcome to the
process
first
of testing.
3-hour episode of Breakpoints.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Maybe.
This is why we decided maybe not the guest this week, because we're already going to have plenty to ramble about. But
Oh my gosh.
anyway,
This is gonna be like a good rambling session. Like if you're a fan of the podcast, this is gonna be a great podcast. This is your first time tuning in. You're already in here for like probably 25 minutes. Just stay for the rest. It's gonna be a great podcast. But like at this rate, it's because like me and Sam approach the decks. Whenever we're testing for an event, we approach so differently. It's actually insane. It's like he's so theoretical and mathematical on everything, and I literally just pick up cards, I play them, and I go, "That felt good. I'm gonna put that in my deck." And he's like, "But why?" And I was like, "I don't know. It won the game." He goes,
Because
That's-
it felt good. Weren't you listening, Sam? Jeez.
and that's pretty much like our little testing is because like we have a feel. So it's like the artist versus the engineer, almost. It's like I'm going to create such a mathematical value where this is like mathematically the best deck you can possibly have with these ratios and explain why. And it's like, well, why did you play this card? And I was like, dude, it was really good. It just kept winning the game. And I was like, dude, Sam watched me play a game earlier this week. I was playing Slippy, and he's like, why did you lead with that? And I was like, I don't think he was gonna block. And he goes, what made you think that? And I was like, I don't know. Opponent proceeds to not block, and he's like, holy shit, he didn't block. Dude, that's just like, okay, I guess that works. I guess that's logically how that
You
functions,
just
I guess.
learned what playing against Taylor is like in a nutshell. 100% of the time. And the crazy part is like half the time, he's just soul reading you and it works. Like, it's ridiculous.
it's crazy. It's
I
crazy.
don't mean to. It just accidentally happens.
He's just in your head.
I
You
just
gotta
accidentally know your every move before you thought it, Yugi boy. Like, listen at this guy, bro. You have like the
There's no
Millennium
way.
Eye over there, like trying to like.
One of my favorite fab moments actually involves you at a ProQuest where you took maybe 7 to 8 minutes thinking about everything that could happen to a Rosetta Thorn.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's like my favorite
Oh,
moment
yeah.
ever because
I hate
he
this
looks.
so much.
Dude, I think it's top 4, and we know that Matt W is 1 at the time, and he's going to pass down the PTI invite. And he's like, I need to make sure I win this game.
We're
He's
playing
like
for Pro
5.
Tour. We're playing
yeah.
for Pro Tour. Like 100%.
And I'll just never forget this because it's like I have a picture of it too. Because like it's sending you, and it's like 3 of my teammates at the time sit beside us watching. And you're looking through my graveyard going, I want to make sure you can't cheese me. Because he puts me to like 2 or 1 or something. And
Just for
I have a two-
context, I physically said that out loud before what he's about
that's
to
the
tell you
best-
happens.
That's the best part. Is you're like, I want to make sure I don't get cheesed here. And I literally
Well, you say the exact card, don't you? You're
no.
you're like
And it-
unless you have like Razor in your deck or something.
Dude, it's so good because like I put Razor in my deck because it's felt good for the last week. Because if you want to think about OG Briar, she didn't have a lot of go again. If you didn't draw an attack action, so I wanted something that goes over the top that gains go again. Past the D reacts because the whole deck was like a 0 for 4 Aurora deck. So if they blocked with the D react, the Razor would be really good. And there's a little text on there. It says or sword, and it's really important in the end game. And I remember I was like, I think I blocked 6 on his turn. And I had a 2-card hand, and I activate Grasp, and I swing Rosetta, and I have Tunic up. And he literally looks at me and goes, I don't want to get cheese here. I'll take the 1 arcane. And he looks through my graveyard. He sits there. He has a 4-card hand. And he goes, I think I can kill you with this 4-card hand. And I was like,
Physically
probably.
said this out loud, and I'm sitting here
he's
thinking,
telling us
how do
to.
I lose this? Because
And
I'm
I
like,
had-
if I get to my turn, it's over.
Yeah, and I had the 1 Razor Reflex in my hand. I'm looking, I'm like, oh man, I hope he doesn't block correctly. And I
I
was
just
like, this.
need you guys to know, Taylor, this entire time, stoic. He's just like, yes, that's interesting. Go on.
Yeah.
Like this whole time, and he's just holding it.
And it's like the most like it's like one of my like favorite moments in Fab because it was one of those moments that I was like, he's like, I'll block 2 on your Rosetta Thorn. I was like, Tunic. He goes, "Fuck me." That's what he said, dude. I was like, I was like, "Fuck me." He's at 2 or something, and I was like, "Racer." He goes, "Man, dude, you fucking got me, didn't you?" That's what he said, dude. And then I'll never forget. He puts his hand into his deck. He starts shuffling. He's like, "I just drove 2.5 hours to get fucked." Dude, it's like, oh my
Dude,
god.
I was so disappointed. Like that was my first like ProQuest where I had ever had a real shot at like getting to the Pro Tour. And like I knew it was a 5-mirror in the finals if Matt W wanted to play it out. And so I was like, I just got to get past this. I just got to get past this. And I was like, 3 cards. This is it. Like, I mean, I was already seeing myself in France at the Pro Tour. And Taylor was like, nah, dog, you ain't getting to next round.
Fucking
Let's
baguette in his hand. He's got the baguette in his hand. And I can see it.
Oh, dude, it was so bad.
He's got the small coffee. He's excited.
That game taught me that it is not over until I see you stick your hand out to concede. Like that it's over.
And it feels awful too, because like every one of our games that we've had in a ProQuest have literally been the thought of theory versus artist. Because like the original game that we actually played that I met him on, he was on Dash IE and I was on Briar. And I went Snatch for 4. He blocks with Tech Low, and a card from hand to block for 4. And he's like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a good game." He has 3 cards in hand, and he's at 2. And I was like, "Lightning press you?" And he's like, "What the fuck is happening, dude?"
I'm always dying to these attack reactions. Like,
Yeah, so
always to Taylor for no reason.
And it's like I remember the first time I ever met him, he's like, "Why are you playing Lightning Press in Briar? It doesn't create an embodiment of Earth, or sorry, it doesn't create an embodiment of lightning, so it didn't give you go again." He goes, I was like, "Oh, it's just for these kind of moments where this happens." He's like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Taylor has always, I've stopped asking because he's like, "Oh, I was just feeling it." And so I just jammed like one of it into my sideboard and I drew it just to watch you cry all the way back to Johnson City. Like, that's exactly what he does.
So this comes into the context of like how we prep for tournaments. So leading into calling Baltimore, which I was the finalist of, I had a win and in against. This is important. This is important. This is important lore.
I like how you say it like that, though.
This is important lore. This leads into all.
As the finalists.
I want to make sure people remember
Finalist
that
sounds a lot better than second place.
I want people to remember that I was good once upon a time. Okay, like I don't want them to think that I'm like some guy that like rides the coattails of like other good players. I had been there before, so.
Oh, no, that's me. Don't worry about it.
I was in a win and in for top 8 against Sandscourer Bo Azalea. Good buddy of mine. We're sitting there, and he read the ledgers me, and he's at 1. And I go, he read the ledgers me. I go Sleep Dart for 6. He blocks 8. He blocks with a pre-meditate, 2 arrows. He's at 1. And I was like, "I'm going to lightning press you." And this was in Lexi days. And this was when like Lexi just got the whole new non-fuse list. And I kill him, win in for top 8. I have my teammates, they're like, "Oh, let's go, Taylor, let's go." And I'm shuffling up and I'm like, "Hey man, good game. Hopefully you win the next round and you top 8. And he goes, and he asked the same question Zach does. He goes, "So why were you playing the lightning press?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just for this one moment." And he's like, "What a shit answer." What is that?
It's because it is a shit answer.
I was like, well, when I was sideboarding, I was thinking, if you run the ledger me, I want a card that can get like 3 value off of the red the ledger. And he goes, "That's such a shit statement. Why would you do that?"
The best part about Taylor is that when you're like, "Dude, that's such a bad answer," he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't hear you after you lost all the way down
anyway,
like the X3 bracket now."
Anyway, can you confirm that I won on the Gym ID app? Thank you, buddy. And it's like, that's kind of like, because one of my best friends is Aaron, as you talked about. You guys have a lot of theory talk when you guys play the same decks. And it's kind of like the engineer versus the artist. It's like, there are people that played certain cards because they are mathematically great. As you talked about Sensor, he's like, well, it fits into this yellow cost curve if I wanted to swing an aura and then a 1 cost, or, if I have like so forth, so on. And then it's like, I kind of just play cards in which feel good. I don't ever think about the cost curve of decks. I don't look at my blue count compared to my red count. And that's kind of like where the prep of Kansas City's come to, is I will literally play 100 games on Talishar, and I will manipulate my deck in a way in which I draw hands up and I'm like, that looks functional, and then I will play that deck. And that's kind of like a really interesting concept from your standpoint, is that like you're always looking for that 1 or 2 value, and I'm just looking to draw 4 card hands that I like. And I think that's really unique.
Yeah, I think a really contentious point for like gravy heads out there right now. I guess it's contentious in my circles. I don't think this is contentious elsewhere because I see everyone on Prismatic Leyline, and I think that card is mostly terrible.
My man, every time I drew it, I was like, this card's shit. Put it in the trash.
Yeah, it's just like there are times, don't get me wrong, where Prismatic Leyline is just 5 damage, and that's awesome. But there were so many other times where I'm like, I wish this was any other card in my deck because now my hand would work. Prismatic Leyline is such a huge brick for me every time I draw it. And like testing with this card, I keep on trying to put it into lists. And every time I do, I'm like, damn, it was just discarded to Tipple. That was it. And it wasn't even an ally, so I can't even summon an ally this turn. It was just terrible. Like the yellows in the deck are so tight that including these non-ally yellows has been so problematic that I don't think there's a lot of room for anything other than sea legs, Tipple, and the yellow slot. It just sucks.
Mhm.
I hate it every time. And I hear a lot of people talk about in their prep how they feel like they can beat fatigue easier with Leyline. And personally, I just don't have that problem because when the way I've constructed my deck and the way that I play Gravy, if I've been fatigued, it's because I've made like 4 or 5 mistakes during the game, never because they could actually fatigue my deck. It's always been because I've made too many mistakes. I've always felt that Prismatic Leyline is this huge crutch. And I didn't get to that spot until I started doing what Taylor does, where I take this deck and I jam games on it. Because from the mathematic perspective and the thematic perspective of like yellows are fine in Gravy, the card looks fantastic. It looks like, this is 5-6 value every time I play it. But when I actually put it into practice, most of the time the card is terrible for me. And maybe that's, my testing bias. But over the course of like 40, 50 games without my deck, it's been awful a lot more than it's been good. And so that's why I'm not going to run that card in my deck. And you don't really get there. And I think that kind of gets to the point that I wanted to make overall, is that not one size fits all for testing. But I think that if you can combine a couple of these techniques that we're talking about right now in your testing, you can get to the point where you're making like incredible decks very quickly. When Taylor and I are aligned on when like we draw 4 cards and we're like, oh, we know this is the exact play. This hand is sick. I feel like that's the point where like we're really dangerous in a tournament because it doesn't happen often where we're like in sync, and when it is, I feel like we're at the point where it's like, oh, we've got some pot here. We're cooking.
So, as a transition, Zach, how do you feel like when you test for like Kansas City, or even like if you're looking at London, which you made a deep run into, what is your prep different than what you think a normal Fab player's prep is?
So I take a very interesting approach to. I feel like I kind of fall between you and Sam, where it's kind of like I lean more towards like the engineering side, but there's definitely some like artist side of me that like wants to try different cards and things that I like to play in specific decks. London's a great example. I didn't play what's Skyward Serenade and Skizzik in my deck at
Yeah.
London. And so that was what I think Hayden Dell referred to as an absolutely psychotic choice. So I just think that like, and like I don't like I love Hayden, but like I just like a lot of people thought that was wrong. And to be fair, it was probably just wrong at the time, but it felt good to me to not have those cards in. So I take a little bit of an interesting approach. I do most of my testing on Talishar as well, like Taylor said. I have some local buddies who come to armories beforehand or come over to my house and like they help me test and like try to target specific matchups and specific like play pattern styles into specific things that kind of help me out a ton. Um, but I lean into my goal is 2 weeks. Well, hang on, let's back up a second. My goal is that a month before the tournament, I want to have my deck like I want to have it to be one of these three decks is what I'm going to play 4 weeks out. So that I have 4 weeks to do nothing but play those three decks and decide from there. And then 2 weeks to one, like no later than a week, I'm on one deck. I know exactly what I'm playing, and I'm working on the 80 here and there. Keep in mind, I've been working on it the whole time, but I'm specifically like narrowing down what I want my 80 to look like. And so when I'm testing and when I'm trying to look for things, I I got this approach from Naib Mobasir. You guys probably know him. He wins like every battle hard he goes to. It feels like, yeah.
I've heard
Aaron
of
Jenkins said no, of course, yeah. So Naib's theory is that he says, "Oh, well, I like these 100 cards. Let's put them in a deck and see what feels bad." And I like to do that a lot when I'm playing paper games. I will go over the 80 card limit and I will just put cards in that I like against specific matchups and I'll play them. And I'll play like 70 cards just to see if it feels good or not. And I kind of decide what I want to cut and what I want to play from there. But when it comes to like testing, honestly, this is where I get a little different. I lean on my chat a lot, as weird as that sounds. So like I'm not on like a team, like I don't have like a bunch of people to like, like that are like these specialists or do this or do that. Like, I lean on a lot of my friends in my chat and a lot of people that are in the chat regularly, I've become good friends with. And they're good at a specific hero or they're good at a couple of heroes and they play games into me and really help me learn a lot. Now, that's honestly, I've seen a lot of success from that. Like just like having the different opinions of people like, all around the world has helped me grow a lot as a player because it's things I may or may not think about in specific situations, like when I'm here or there. And then the other thing that I do, like like the two other things that I do like clockwork every week is I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of all of my stuff. And for anybody who does not want to buy like Microsoft products or anything like that, like it's Google Sheets. If you have a Gmail, you have access to it. So I have a Google Sheet that I actually have pulled up over here on my other screen that like I'm going to talk about a little bit. And it has the date that I played the game on, what hero I played against, did I go first or second, did I win or lose, and then I have a massive column for notes about whether I played bad, about whether I played well, what I thought my opponent's deck might have done. And sometimes like it spaces out into the notes column a little bit where I have to get more thorough to kind of like talk about the different things. And I also list like if I played against somebody I know, I list that I played against this person. Because one of the things that I try not to fall too complacent in is if you test against the same people all the time, you fall into this like idea of you learn how they play. Whether you realize it or not, your brain tells yourself how they play the game. And so you start to like build this game plan, and it's only around how that person plays the game, maybe not around the matchup. And so that's where I think that, like Taylor said, playing on Talishar is actually a big benefit because you may get some people who are newer to the game and maybe don't take the most optimal lines all the time, but you get people who are trying different things. And it gives you this idea that you can like look and learn different play patterns from people. And then the last thing that I do that I feel like has really helped my game like the most, I would say, is reviewing my own games. It is so beneficial to go back and watch games that you have played and look and be like, wow, how did I not see that? Like, it's so obvious now that I'm like watching it back. And so, like, a great example is my stream today. I went 0-5 playing Ira on stream today. I watched two of those games looking back on it, and it's like, man, I wasn't there today. Like, mentally, I was not checked in to play Ira today. And there's a reason I went 0-5. There was some variance, but it's cards. There's always going to be variance. And so I think that reviewing your games gives you this opportunity to learn who you are as a player and allows you to narrow down where you can improve at the game. So those are really like the big areas I use to test with.
So
what is the note for Betsy for today?
Oh, dude. Hang
Drink
on.
bleach.
The testing sheet.
Oh yeah. Taylor. Here's what I wrote. What did we even play against? Nerves of steel fatigue. Like, this not even a real note because I was so mad. I was so mad when I lost this game. This was like literally like a 28 turn game. Like, or something crazy. And I was so over it when it was done with. I was so over it.
I want to tell a little anecdote here. So last weekend I did play in the same tournament as Zach, and he had this little notebook and the codex, uh, which he sponsors on his channel. And in the codex, there's a little thing that says, yeah, right there, see? And there's a little codex that says, "Am I favored in this matchup?" or something. What's the correct verbiage in it? It's like, "Do I feel favored here?"
Yeah,
What's
like
the?
it says, like, I mean, hang on, let me pull it up and I'll like
Yeah,
verbatim quote it to you. Hang
I'm
on.
gonna get the verbatim quote here because he says this
It
in actual
says
Swiss.
matchup favored with a question
Okay.
mark.
Okay. So, fun little fact here. He pulls it out and he literally reads it out loud. He goes, "Matchup favored." And we played in Swiss and he goes, "Yes." And he looks at me. I was like, "Okay." And don't get me wrong, I think that's like one of the top 5 funniest moments I've ever had in Flesh and Blood is that he says it out loud. But I think that's also a great note for when you're testing is that like if you lose a matchup that you think that you're favored into, either one or two things happened. And this is what I believe. Either they high rolled you or you didn't play optimal. And that's something that I like to think about. It's like, so when I'm testing for Kansas City, and I'm playing on Slippy, and like let's say I lose to Syndra, I have probably maybe 7,000 recordings of Talishar games on my computer. I record them all. I'll go back and rewatch it, maybe 2 or 3 days afterwards, on a matchup that I think was abnormal, and I'll go, what happened in this matchup? And I'll try to look up from a more unbiased standpoint, where I'm not like, hey, I should have won this match. I go, what happened in this match that is different from the last 15 matches I looked at? And why did I lose this matchup compared to the last 15? And most people have to remember, like when they are on Talishar and they lose a game, we are playing a card game that you can just you just can't win. That does happen in a RNG based card game system. Like even though it's less variance than like Magic, because the whole 7 draw 7 then 1 every turn. We draw 4, so we see more through our decks. It can just happen that if your opponent plays 100% correct, you are mathematically impossible to win the game, and that's just card games themselves. And that's something that you have to tell yourself. It's like, hey, sometimes you just have to say, I just got high rolled, or I just got unlucky, and that happens. And I think that takes a lot of people's fight out of the game, in my personal opinion. It's because like I've done a lot of coaching in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they're like, why did I lose this game? And then I'm like, well, did you record? And they're like, yeah, and we watch it. I'm like, there was just no winning that game. You played correctly. It just didn't happen. Your opponent just drew better than you. And that's something that's like really hurts a lot of my locals lately, is that they're like, oh, well, my opponent just drew better than me and I lost. And I was like, that's just how the game works, with a little bit more RNG based as of lately. And talking kind of to his point is like, you can still lose a winnable matchup. And it's just like a whole thing is like, I don't want that to deter people from testing thoroughly for Kansas City or another tournament.
So
It's also good to recognize that from the other side as well, I think. So for example, today I tested Gravy against Slippy, and I sent a pretty decent turn that had a Conquer of the High Seas in it and an ally attack. And he took the whole thing, it blew up his arsenal, and he has 4 cards. And what he does is he sends a Bonds with Go Again, and I drew up 2 Blood in the Waters, and He throws the bonds. I compass. Top of my deck is an ally. So he goes pump, pump, flick knives on the bonds, and I go double blood in the water. My hand blocks 10 at reaction speed, and he just can't recover from that game. It's like it's over. There's nothing that I did special. There's nothing that he did wrong necessarily.
It just happens.
He played a very real line that he was trying to like put on pressure, deal a lot of damage, disrupt me, and my deck just said
No,
get wrecked. Like,
and
and I didn't feel like I did anything great that game. I didn't feel like it was good testing for me.
Mhm.
It felt like if this happens in like a real tournament, I'm just gonna win, and it's not because I did great.
You
It's
just
because my
had
deck
it,
said I win.
and it's that
Yeah.
simple sometimes.
and it's like I don't want
So
to discourage people with that because of like, as Sam mentioned, that just happens in this card game, and it's like, as I've played multiples of game, it's like I also don't want people to elevate their decks depending on those matchups. It's like I drew the literal nuts. My deck is the best deck in the format, or so forth, so on, because that causes a whole inverse of like what the metagame actually is. And yeah, Sam, what were you saying? I just wanted to add that in there.
I just want to say that I guess I kind of wanted to finish it off with it's not good to take data from games like that.
Exactly.
If you are making decisions based off of your high rolls, it's just as bad as making decisions off of super low rolls that Taylor was describing.
Yep.
You want to find your edges in all your matchups. Like people joke about it, like that 1 to 3%. You know, put this card in, you get like a marginally better. But I feel like that makes a very tangible difference at the higher levels.
I think like that's a great like talking point is that people count their high rolls and their low rolls too much. And like if you look through my spreadsheet, there's actually asterisks in the notes for games, and anytime you see 2 asterisks at the beginning and the end of the note, it means I don't feel like this should count towards the data for whatever reason. And it's important for me to keep track of that because it's like I may look at a game and go, oh, well, my win rate is like 75%, which is pretty good. I'd be happy with, winning 75% of my games for the rest of my life. And then I look and I say, oh, well, it's like my win rate's actually about 54%, but I was winning against like, this person was new or this was not a real deck or, this or that and some things here and there.
Yes.
So, as I've like developed my game in Flesh and Blood, I like to call those ego games. I know it sounds awful.
It's accurate, though. It's accurate.
Yeah.
It's real though. It's like when leading into like a big calling or something, and I'm on a deck that I'm confident on, it's kind of like Aurora in London, which I had a pretty good run, similar to you, Zach, except for yours in the Pro Tour, mine was in the calling. Very different.
Same but different, right? Same but different.
Yeah, it was like I don't have to draft. That's actually the real difference. I was like, I don't want to draft.
But
it's like I'll play a game on Talishar, and like it's kind of like this like double-edged sword. Is I'll play against, I'm not going to say a new player, but somebody that's still learning the game.
Yep.
And I'll demolish them. And it's like I don't want to like go on my notebook and be like, absolutely, game doesn't count. But at the same time though, I also want to put down, I'm pretty good at this deck, because like you also want to go into these calling tournaments pretty self-confident. And I think that's a big point too, is like you don't want to go in going, I have a 41% win rate on my deck, shuffle round one of the calling.
Right.
You also want to feel confident.
Yeah.
And that's something that's like really important to me, is that like I'll send to the team chat, I'll be like, okay, here's my last 100 games on Talishar. Sam has seen it 100 times now. He's like, I'll be like, this is my last 100 games. And somebody be like, what do you feel about this matchup? And then I'll pull up my actual deck win rate. I'll be like, this is my win rate. This is how I've been winning. And they're like, well, that matchup is bad. And I'm like, well, I'm like 10 out of the last 11 of that matchup. How bad can it be? And I know that sounds awful. And even if the matchup is unfavored, I want to go into Kansas City feeling like I'm favored. So I have that little extra boost so I don't get tilted in the middle of the matchup if I'm losing or in a losing game state. Because in my mind, I still want to think I'm going to win the matchup. And like I know I've seen a lot of people that I've played against where I'm like, let's say I'm playing Lexi back in the day. And it's like maybe turn 4 or 5. And they're like, oh, does your deck just not give out? And you're like, no, I'm just playing optimal. If you haven't played against a good optimal Lexi, this is what the deck actually feels like instead of like the Talishar data that you've been given. And it's like the difference between like an average Talishar player and like an average player that plays the deck, you know what I'm saying, to like the ninth degree is so different. It's like I want to feel confident in that scenarios in the calling. I don't want to feel like I'm going into the calling on my back foot. And so it's like I will take those matchups that I'm destroying on Talishar, even if they are real games. I want to use that confidence going into the calling. And that's something that I'm always trying to remind myself of is that like at the end of the day, these are real people I'm playing against, even if they aren't, top tier. It's like I can still optimize my side of the games.
These are still people you could play against in a calling. Like just to
Right.
clarify for anybody listening to this, like callings are open to anybody. Like, and to be honest, there are some pretty small ProQuests and nationals. You may run into people like that you would consider suboptimal players. And again, like I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody here is. We're just kind of describing like how we go through things. And you may run into somebody like this in the 2-0 bracket in nationals because they've hit a couple good matchups or like and now they don't know how to play against what you're doing and so it feels like how did you get to the 2-0 bracket. I think we've all played games like that before and felt that way.
Hmm.
Before we run past this,
100%.
I want to talk about something that Taylor like talked about a minute ago. Taylor was talking about how people don't say enough, oh well, like there was just nothing I could do. And to be fair, like that is a real thing that happens. Like that is a very valid point that I don't think in like at a certain level, people don't give themselves enough credit for just losing the game because it just wasn't winnable. But there's stages to that, I think. So when you first start the game and you lose a matchup that you feel is super favored, you're just like, oh, I got high rolled. And you never actually analyze the game. And so I feel like even if it wasn't a super high roll, maybe it's just not as favored as you thought it was. And the person just had like an okay draw and you had a little bit of a less okay draw. You lost the game and you blame it on getting high rolled. Because we've all been there. Some games just
Yeah.
feel bad. They feel bad. And so you're like, man, I got high rolled. But it's like, did they actually high roll or did I play bad? And it feels bad because of that. And then I feel like at another certain point, people stop just saying I got high rolled and they stop saying it completely. And they don't let the fact that, like what Taylor was talking about, that they did get high rolled come into the equation. Because I think as Flesh and Blood players, most of the time, people think to themselves, oh, I probably could have done something there. At least I say
Hmm.
that to myself. I'm like, I probably could have made a better play. I could have Arsenal different or not Arsenal different based on how my opponent blocked. And I just like, I think sometimes you need to give yourself some slack. But if you're a new player, I think that you're going to blame it on high roll more than you should.
I agree. Like I have played multiple games. One of my like absolute favorite moments in Flesh and Blood is Sam watching me for a win and in for top 8 of London, and I just like I complained about the high roll, and it happened, and I've like backtracked through my mind 1,000 times of what could have happened, and it's just mathematically I had a 0%er. There was nothing I could have done
Was this
different.
the Kano nonsense?
Yes,
Yes, this is the
Yeah,
Kano.
yeah. Dude, I heard about this for 2 days before we even left the UK.
dude.
Like,
But the thing is though, I know from a fact, like I have played the game in my mind multiple times, and I knew that it was just mathematically I wasn't gonna win. He just wanted it more than me, and that's okay. And like he just wanted it more, man.
Kano's the worst one, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Kano
That
feels
one's
so
different.
bad. He just,
Yeah,
woo, nothing pisses me off more than getting high rolled by
every
Kano.
time I
trust me,
lose in
buddy.
Kansas
I
City,
know.
I'm going to go, good job. You wanted it more. Every
Yeah,
time. Every
yeah.
time.
But that's the thing though, is like you have to internalize that sometimes it is just out of your control. They just like the card game itself, and I don't want people to. I've had multiple people reach out to me, goes, "Hey, I played this Katsu game," and then they'll show me their 45-minute recording against Jarl, and they're like, "What did I do wrong?" And I'm like, "Everything looked correct. It was just Jarl. They had it. Just because the game is lower variance than like Magic or other card games I've played, like One Piece and stuff, it is still just a card game. Variance is real. I don't want people to get, overly tilted over that. And it's kind of like that balance of flow. It's like, I want to remember the good. I want to forget the bad, going into these big tournaments like this.
I also want to pull it back a little bit because I think I don't want it to get away from us a little bit here, is I think you should be very. I feel like you should not be afraid to innovate on your deck. And I think that a lot of people will take these lists that have done well at tournaments, and like, for example, people will take like the winning deck from Pro Tour and say, "This is it. This is the best deck. I'm going to play this at the next calling." And a lot of people will, like, for starters, the landscape will change. Mastery Pack Guardian came out. There's new cards. Past that, people will develop new strategies against what they think is pertaining to the best deck. And if you don't develop your gameplay and your strategies in the same amount of time that other people are developing to counteract the new popular strategies, you're going to fall behind. And one of the best ways to get, I think, like edge percentage points into everybody, not just even like players who are not as prepared as you are, is by including unorthodox strategies and cards in your deck. The great examples are what Taylor was going over earlier with Razor Reflex and Lightning Press in these previous examples. But I think it extends to more than just like gotcha attack reactions. It can be like whole game plan changes where, say maybe I keep on going back to Gravy and Enigma because these are decks I play a lot, but it applies to everybody. But as an example, like let's say you increase the amount of rum generation in your Gravy deck, so that now you have like this different end games type of scenario where you're trying to repeatedly double ally over and over and over. Something that's not really possible is people seem to be like trimming Tip the Bar Keep and Sea Lakes from their lists. You have to block with these cards sometimes. You don't always have the opportunity to turn them into rum. Playing Tip the Bar Keep is a terrible value play, and you don't always get the space to just play it out into decks that are like giving you the beatdown. So I think including cards that give you a different way to play your game plan that is different than what your opponent is expecting are infinitely more valuable than any other type of like sideboard tech piece that you can include. I think maybe like a generic one right now is Base of the Mountain. If people are really hyped about Volda coming into the event, and you're concerned that maybe it's a bad matchup for you. Maybe you're playing Cinder, for example, and you really want to get around the stop the cycle of like the dominate Volda spec. The name's escaping me.
Put them in their place.
Whatever it is. Yeah, put them in their place. Because if she can cycle multiple back-to-back dominated crush effects, it gets really terrible. So if you include like this one of sideboard piece, really surprise your opponent by stopping this. Cinder's actually a terrible example because you don't want to ever get rid of your legs, but you get my point here. Where like you're gonna surprise your opponent by putting this in your deck. They're gonna try to like cycle this, put them in their place because that's their game plan. That's how they sideboard their deck. This is how they're gonna try to approach the matchup. And all of a sudden, you throw a huge wrench in their plans. They can't do anything about that now. So having cards that can actually like make that happen, I feel like are ways to gain an edge that is underexplored for a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. Like, there's not enough people who are willing to innovate. And honestly, I think that comes with kind of the like growth of Flesh and Blood. Like, the more sets we get, the more cards we gain access to. People are going to innovate more, and people are going to be willing to try things. Also, the more people you get playing the game, like people step out more, and people are like, "Oh, well, like this is like, why are we not trying this? Why have we not played this?" And it's kind of weird because I like to use the example: the first person through the wall is always bloody. It's because when you throw something in purple chat and you're like, "Oh, like purple Discord," and you're like, "Hey, like, have you guys tried this?" And everybody's like, "Shut up, you're stupid. Like, why have you tried this?" There's a reason I literally don't talk to people in Purple Discord because every time I've ever been I just get shit on.
First mistake.
Yeah, like I don't go there. Like I go to people that it's kind of funny because Taylor has the same reaction when I have ideas, but I go to like people that I know and I trust and I like to talk to. Look at that face; it says it all. But I mean, being willing to innovate is tough, and you also have to have the time to put in. I feel like in a lot of ways, if you're gonna like innovate in specific scenarios.
100%. You do have to have a lot of time in order to make some of these things happen, but the amount of Flesh and Blood. So if you take the approach that I take to Flesh and Blood with testing, a lot of this can be done just like in your day-to-day routines. Like I have a very I don't want to say demanding, but I have a job that makes me, be focused on the job for the most of the day. But through that day, I can think about like, what if I did this in my deck? What if I included this card? What would it look like? How would it affect this matchup? And that's something I think about like fairly often. It's not something you have to like actively practice. And if you're really, really set on like trying to win your ProQuest and go to your first Pro Tour, you want to join us in Yokohama and have a blast. You want to go to the pool party, like, you gotta put some commitment into this. So
Agreed.
it sounds like it can be a lot, but there are ways to like also engage with your theory crafting and learning about the game. If your job allows you to listen to podcasts while you work, that was one of the ways that I started to learn about Flesh and Blood, was actually listening to Nathan Crawford tier list, as silly as that is.
I'm sorry.
His Nationals tier list was one of the first ways I started to like understand, as because I joined the game when Lexi just became a big deal. It was right before like Dusk Till Dawn. And he was doing the Nats tier list. He's like, oh, Lexi's insane. And then there's also this Briar deck list that's sick. And, it can actually go toe to toe with it. And like learning like the matchup spread of Lexi from that podcast helped me understand. And I top aided my first RTN because that was like the content I was consuming. I learned my matchup spread. Is being able to engage with the community and content like that and learn from people who are a lot more in the know and involved than I was, is a way to like help me catch up with that.
One thing as I was getting into Flesh and Blood is like the first like 3 or 4 months, I thought I was really in the know. And then I got to meet some of the other people. And then I realized I wasn't really in the know. It's like, it sounds funny, but it's like, dude, some of these people like eat, breathe, and live Flesh and Blood. It's like,
kinda
these guys
crazy.
are like, yeah. It's like,
Man, you're looking at 3 of them pretty much.
yeah. And it's like,
At this
I think-
point, I would agree. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the issues, I think there's like maybe 15 to 20 people that are like 2 times where I'm at. Like I have seen, I'm like, holy smokes. I was like, I don't know how I can manage being a husband and also doing what they're doing. So it's like, that's insane.
Nothing would make me happier than being a trophy husband who focuses on nothing but flesh and blood.
I was like, sweetheart,
It is what it is.
sweetheart, please get your
Feels good to get
doctorates.
paid.
Please get your doctorates. I was like, do you know how badly I want you to tell your other doctor friends that I am a professional card game player that sits at home and plays Talshar all day, please?
It's a dream,
my
man.
my wife is in this exact situation. She's telling her coworkers, we're going to London because my husband,
Dude,
he's competing in
same.
a card tournament
Same.
over there. And they go, what does he play? Poker?
You're like, sure.
Every time.
Yes.
Every
Every
time.
time, dude.
No.
And
Dude.
Taylor's just being like, yeah, sure. That's what I've told Crowley to say. I'm like, just don't.
I was
Don't
like,
engage. Like, unless
dude.
they're like a real nerd, just don't engage. Just say yes.
Dude, that's exactly what I tell her. I was like, look, if your friends ask you, I'm just a really good card player. Don't tell them anything else. Don't just say you don't know what kind of cards I'm playing. Okay. You're like, oh, is it poker? Just be like, maybe. Just always at sometimes.
I mean, if you say sometimes, it's technically not a lie, right? Because it's there.
I have put $20 into like WGP Gold status membership. Okay.
see, there
So
it is.
maybe I.
See? No, I mean, I get it. It's kind of weird. Like I come back and like when I get back, my mom's like, "How was Singapore?" And like my mom's not like, "How was cards?" My mom's like, "How was Singapore?" And I'm like, "Well, I saw Singapore on Thursday and Monday, and then every other day was me sitting in a room playing cards." So like, Carly will have to
smells
tell
so
you more
bad.
about Singapore than I will.
Dude,
Oh yeah, I'm excited for us to go to Yokohama and all our wives get to have an excellent trip
Dude,
to
Oh,
Japan.
it's
Dude,
gonna be amazing.
you joke? That happened exactly in London. My I come from work and they're like, "Oh, how was your card game?" I was like, "Oh, it was good." They're like, "How was London?" I was like, "Well, these are the pictures my wife took.
Dude.
She went to these cool places." They're like, "What'd you do?" I was like, "I sat in the building and ate ramen from across to the other side of the convention center."
It's so accurate though. So we have one of the guys I work with got me into Flesh and Blood. His name's Jonathan, and so like he understands. And so when I told him I finished 14th at the Pro Tour, he was like, dude, that's awesome. And I remember we're in a work meeting and they were like, oh, like, how was cards? And I was like, I finished 14th, and everybody's like, oh, like, cool, good job. Like, very like casual about it. And then like Jonathan's like, no, you all do not understand how good this is. Like, and I mean, he's like trying to preach it. And I'm like, Jonathan, just let it go, bro. Like, it's okay. I appreciate it, but it's like, we're not going to get there. You can't connect.
Did you ever like,
you
did you ever show them that like video and they're like, "Look, watch my Aurora game for my winning in London." Like, and then you show your balls and he's like, you weren't wearing lightning greaves into Prism? And you're like, oh my God.
Can you imagine? No 2-week notice. Here's my resignation. I'll just throw myself out the window.
Dude, that's like one of my like craziest moments. Is like I remember Sam like looking over me, he goes, he's not on lightning greaves. I was like, oh my God, he's not on lightning greaves? And Sam's like, he's not on lightning greaves. And I'm like, have my win in for like the calling, and I'm like, that's crazy. I can't watch, but tell me what happens. And then I remember I'm like playing my game, and he looks at me, he goes, I'm like, oh no.
It's so funny.
And that wasn't even the worst news you're about to receive in that hour.
Dude, that's the crazier part. I remember after the game thinking, oh, if I'd been on Lightning Greaves, I had the discharge I could have arsenaled. Like, I had the whole thing. I, like, win this game by, like, a mile. And I'm talking about how I top-8'd my first Pro Tour ever. But instead, I did not have a lot of Prism testing leading up to the event. Like, I don't know a lot of people who played Prism. And the few people I do, we were on the decision to run snaps because I could give Snatch go again if I needed to. And let me tell you, I learned from Leo very quickly why Lightning Greaves is correct. Was correct. Aurora, rest in peace.
Soon. She'll be back soon.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yes. I can't wait for us to go back to Aria and it's all lightning set. It's just lightning ranger, lightning rune blade, lightning wizard.
Okay, I have a tinfoil hat. Okay, I have a tinfoil hat. It's good. First set's gonna be Monarch, and the second set is gonna be Vault Haven or Candlehold, and we're gonna get that lightning ranger. And I'm like so excited. Was it Orin from the Valdez story? Like,
whatever. I can't remember what the name was, but yeah.
Dude,
I don't know.
I was like, oh, Buzzbolt? We get to play Buzzbolt?
Buzzbolt.
People.
Oh, man.
Dude, Buzzbolt's insane. It says whenever an attack hits this turn, deal 1 damage to him.
I'm hip.
If you had to Febrari search Buzzbolt before Taylor told you what it did, comment on this video. Comment on this video.
Dude. Dude, like Dazzling Crescendo? I was like, dude, that card's insane. I was like, dude, you don't understand. I'm like so excited for like a ranger that like has the word go again somewhere in the text box.
That would be nice.
Oh,
I know. Dude, just what I want them to do is print Voltaire Strike Thrice and just call it a day.
Do you know what you just said?
Episode's
fucking
over.
dream?
I'm going to bed. I can't do this. No. Not the day I've had, no shot. Sam's about to get us canceled, bro.
Oh, Zach, what's your opinion on like Lexi versus Ira? Who would win the game?
Yo, what?
Who, like, if you had to guess, Lexi versus Ira?
Like an LL?
Yeah.
I would take Ira. Needle shit's broken, dude.
It sounds like Taylor wants to throw the gauntlet.
Dude, needle shit's broken.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
How much money are we willing to put on the line? I will take Aaron on Needle Ira over you.
No. It's you. I want
you.
I want you.
How long do I get to practice?
As soon as you can go 1-4 on a stream, we'll start our game.
Okay. Where's the leave call button? Where is the leave call button?